Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Please remember to be respectful at all times, as these are people's stories, life, and opinions that they are having, which are all okay to have. Also, some conversations might get a little too deep, which will make some of you guys uncomfortable. If that is the case, please remember that it is always okay to exit, and then I'll see you in the following episode. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hello guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Floating Thoughts. If you missed episode 1 or the introduction, my name is Lally, and it feels good to be back. It hasn't even been that long, but it feels really good to be back. I first want to start off by saying thank you for the amount of support that was sent to me, whether it was through Instagram, text messages, or even just within the last podcast episode. It means a lot to me, and I was a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, to even post it at first, because I was like, what if it's not a good conversation, or whatever the case may be. But I am so glad I did it, and yeah, it makes me really happy. And yeah, thank you. So I don't know if you guys can tell, I got a little mic, and I'm so excited to use it. It makes me feel like it's those ASMR videos, but I know it's not, but I have that urge to just start whispering and but it's not like that. But another thing that I did want to touch on is the fact that it probably looks super fall-y here. I have this whole jacket going on with fall vibes, and then I made myself my own little coffee, made sure it was nice and brown, so it just matches the aesthetic. It's super good too though, don't get me wrong. But I think today is September 23rd, so by the time you guys will be watching this, is I can't really do the math right now, but it's not gonna be September 23rd obviously. But we have not gotten an ounce of cold. I do think that I'm in Texas, so I do think that we got played about 2 weeks ago. I feel like I went outside for a run and it felt so good, and now it's back to being unbearably hot. And it's crazy because actually I think it's the autumnal, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think it's the autumnal equinox. It's supposed to be the 22nd to the 23rd of September that we're supposed to get that breeze and all that. Yeah, not happening in Houston, I don't think, but hopefully soon. And then I did want to mention too, I feel like I don't know if it's just the me thing because my birthday is in September, but why do we always make September about Halloween? It's not. I feel like it's such a just fall vibes. I just hate that everything, I know this is a very controversial, what is it called? Controversial topic, because I know some people are probably girl, that is the best part. Or, no, I feel let's make it as much fall as we can, and I really, really love that September starts that for us. But I feel like September is so neglected. And I feel so bad because it's my birthday month, but it's not even because of that. It's just that I feel I don't know. Maybe it's also because we're in Houston, so it's hot, so it just still feels like summer. But let's give September some type of grace, okay? Yeah. But this kind of made me think about some things. So I don't know if you guys do this, or if you do that for a different time in your life. I do this mainly for my birthdays, and I wanted to share it with you guys because sometimes I talk to people and we get into that type of conversation and they think it might be cool, and then we kind of share thoughts, and it's kind of cool to see what everybody kind of does for their goals. And so, for example, every single time that I turn another age, you know how usually people do what's your birthday wish? I do more so birthday goals, right? So I give myself that whole year. I know it kind of sounds a little silly, 365 days, but I do give myself that whole year to basically complete that goal. But it's going to be not a big goal. It can be as big as you want, as small, but it's just something that that you've been wanting to do. And so I wanted to share the fact that this was my 25th birthday goal. And I always do it. I don't give myself mainly like a deadline in the sense of like, oh, it has to be a month before my birthday. It's usually like before my birthday. So, as you guys may know, this podcast came out September 22nd, and my birthday is the 24th. So, literally 2 days before I accomplished this goal. But it's things like that like they make me feel really, really proud of myself, because there's no excuse to not accomplish that goal, you know? Another thing is, I don't ever tell anybody my goal until it's like the project starts or anything or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, somebody's going to help me. Let's say somebody's going to help me with the production or this or that. Then I'm like, oh, this was a goal of mine, and we got to do it this time because, you know, time's running out, or whatever the case may be. But that's why also I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. I make my goal very realistic, you know. For this year, I don't think I figured it out, but usually on the 24th, it kind of comes to me, you know, like, this is what I want to do for this upcoming year, you know? So I did want to share that with you guys. Also, I kind of want to know what you guys do. Like, do you guys do like goals for your birthday, or do you just like, nah, girl, we just do a birthday wish and that's it? Let me know. So yeah, I kind of wanted to touch down on that, because I was really, really proud of myself for even, you know, making the podcast. And then I kind of thought about it like, dang, like I really accomplished that, and it made me feel really, really good. So today I kind of wanted to talk about something that has been floating around in my mind, and I think it kind of lies with the fact that I am turning another year older, of course, but also being a woman, you know. It kind of, I have a lot of friends or like coworkers that we sometimes mingle about it, but not necessarily like touch on this subject, but it's a conversation that gets brought up a lot. And so I started thinking about it the other day, and it kind of has just been lingering in my mind, and I kind of wanted to open it up for conversation, because maybe there's other people that also feel this way, or there's other people that, well, mainly women that might feel this way. And then I'm opening it up for obviously men to also hear it, because you have a woman in your life, you know, you have your mother, or you might have a girlfriend, a wife, or even like friends. And it could also be a conversation that you can have with them. And so the conversation is kind of more so, how much time is on a woman's side, you know? And I think the reason why this came to mind is because I feel like we always have, you either have those girls that grew up with the dream of like very structured, you know, like, I'm going to be married, I'm going to have kids, and, or I'm just going to find the love of my life, you know, whatever it may be, but they all have that timeline, you know? And then you kind of have the ones that are just like life one day at a time, you know? And that's kind of me, right? But I didn't realize how rare that was. I actually have come across a lot of women that do have a timeline, you know? And for me, don't get me wrong, I am very much of a structured person, but for other things. Like, I think that I really live life like a day at a time. To give you a quick like scenario, it literally takes me a whole year for me to say that I'm that current age. So I am currently 25, and I think it was literally like a week ago that I was like, oh, I'm 25. Like, I could literally say it without saying like, oh, I'm 24. And age has really never bothered me either. I know sometimes women get to like an age where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm halfway to 50. I have never thought about it like that. And then when I start hearing it from other women, I'm kind of like, dang, like, that's kind of like like, you don't scare yourself kind of saying stuff like that, but I also get it, you know? For me, I'm just kind of more so, I like to just kind of like check boxes, but as days go, you know, by. So kind of going back to what I was talking about, I have come across a lot of women that, yes, they do have a timeline, and it can get stressful, right? Because I feel like growing up, especially growing up, being a girl in this world is a little bit, I feel like it sounds very negative and it sounds very sad, but the world is not really on our side. We go through a lot as women, and sometimes people are not on our side as well, and it can get very, very dark. It could get very, very difficult. Like I said, we go through a lot. We go through motherhood, we go through breakups. I mean, so do men, but I feel like women handle it a little bit different, right? And also, I think it kind of goes back to the timeline. Sometimes I think that women handle breakups a little bit different than men, because you do think of your life as a timeline, and you think more so like, oh, I really thought this person was for me, and now I feel I'm kind of behind because now the person is not for me. Now I have to find another person that's for me and see if it works out. And if it does, then I'm still on track, that quote unquote on track. But if they're not for me, then it's kind of like, oh, there I go, 3 steps back again, And I kind of want to pause for a moment. And if you are that type of person, take a pause, or pause me right here and just breathe. Let go of that and lean back and let your shoulders down. You are okay. You are doing great. And forget that timeline. Make sure that the only timeline that you should be following one is God's plan. God's timing is perfect. And I can say that a million, trillion, bajillion times. And maybe you might not agree with me, but at the time that we feel that, nothing makes sense to us. But I'm here to tell you that yes, God's timing is perfect. And when that time comes, you'll be able to not even just reference this video, just reference that quote, that God's timing is truly, truly perfect, and it all makes sense. It all makes sense why you went through that, why that person didn't work out for you, why that job didn't work out for you, the marriage didn't work out for you, the engagement, because it's God's timing, But also, I also want to let you know that it is okay to even have that timeline, but don't have that pressure on yourself. It's more so like, yes, I know it was probably a dream of yours when you were young. Like, oh, I want a big wedding. I want my husband to look like this. I want my kids to look like this. Because believe it or not, there's some people that do have that. Like they have high expectations, because when they find a partner, they're like, maybe you're not the one for me, because I imagine my kids to look like this, and me and you are probably not possible to do that. And sometimes we create those how do you say it? We create like those one, we create those expectations, but two, sometimes we block those blessings because we're going on our time and not God's timing. So we're more so like, we think that what we're doing is right. Like that, oh, you can't be that person for me because, I thought of myself with this type of person, and you're great, but I didn't think it was going to be with you. So, and you kind of go the other way when it could be God telling you that is the person for you, But I did want to touch on that, because I do feel like it is a lot of pressure, one, that we put on ourselves, and then two, that the world puts on us. I know that also women, there's a certain age that, if you are planning to have kids, you have, some people are getting a rush because it's like, oh, I have to be married by this age because I want to have kids. I want to be a young mom, or I just don't want to have kids when I have to be struggling, or whatever the case may be, And I get it. 1000%. But I think that adding that extra stress to our lives on top of what we already go through is unnecessary, because I feel like we are kind of closing doors for ourselves rather than opening up doors and kind of just letting God do his work, And so I could also be coming from a place that I have never thought of things like that. Even when I was younger, I have never thought about a big wedding. I had never thought about like the person I was going to marry. And it wasn't even the fact that marriage scared me. It was more so like I was literally living life day by day. And I still am. And I think that sometimes people try to make you feel bad because they're like, oh, well, you're about to turn 26. Like, this person that's 24 just got engaged or just got married. Like, you don't feel no type of way? No, I do not. I think I've had this conversation with multiple people too. Like, I think I rather wait and have that time where I know everything is fitted, rather than be with the wrong person or do things at the wrong time and just things like that. So I think that sometimes, yeah. Should I pause it right here? I am so sorry about that. I don't know if it's going to look like a weird cut, but I have two little beautiful clingy dogs and they just want to be on the couch and all that, so they start crying, so I didn't want to leave that on there for you guys. But if you do hear them, they're sitting here just waiting for me to finish. So yes, like I was saying, I have never been that type of person, like that has had a plan. So when it comes to like, I guess like love life or having children, I do know that I do want to get married and I do want kids in the future, but I don't think I've ever, not I don't think, I actually know I've never been that type of person that has set like a specific timeline for myself. Like, this is by the time that I want this. I have said before, so don't get me wrong, I have said before, or like, which brings me back kind of to the point that I started with, like that as women, because sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to be 35 and have kids because complications and things like that. I have, of course, said like, oh, kind of like before 28, I at least, want to have kids and stuff or want to be settled. But I'm also okay with, again, I am actually perfectly okay with God's timing. And if it's in his plans for that to happen then it's kind of like oh, I'm glad it happened. But I don't think I'm stressed about that, and I know that there's a lot that comes with it, but I just feel like naturally, like I mentioned before, and I'll say it again, as women, we already go through a lot. So putting a timeline on things is not necessarily like my biggest priority when it comes to like life timeline wise, just because I know everybody's life is different. And yeah, sometimes we see somebody else like getting X, Y, and Z before us, but that doesn't mean that it's for us, if that makes sense. And I feel like we truly never know people's life, no matter how close you are to that person. You still might not know everything. So they could portray that they're happy and they could really be happy, you never know. But then sometimes we desire things that are not going to be good for us. And this goes with everything, and it's not even just about marriage or having kids. I feel like if you are also like a single mom, and of course maybe that wasn't in your plan and you are feeling kind of overwhelmed, it was, oh, this was never in my plans. I never wanted to be a single mom, or I never wanted to go through this. There's a reason why we are in the place that we are currently in. And it's hard. I know I've had friends that are single moms, and I've heard from them, and I know I could never relate to it because I'm not going through it right now. But I do think that we are meant to be where we are for a specific reason. And again, this is just like my opinion on things. I could be 100% wrong. Like, someone might comment on there like, oh, heck no, girl, you are 100% wrong, or you need to give deadlines, or you need to give, I know a lot of people do like ultimatums and stuff. It's just not something I'm going for. But I know that everybody does things differently. I just feel like I'm more so touching on this subject because I feel like you don't need the unnecessary stress from the world that, like, you know, it's just not needed in your life. We already, as people, not even just as women at this point, as people, we just already go through so much stress throughout our daily lives that we don't need that extra stress added on top of that, you know? So I did want to just kind of, you know, ask you guys, like, what is your opinion on that? Like, do you feel like you setting that timeline for your life has worked? Or do you feel like, are you like also like a person like me that you're just kind of like, oh, like, you know, if it happens, it happens, and I'm not really expecting it to, you know, like more so just going with God's plan? Or are you just a person that's like, oh no, like I'm a timeline person. Like I need to have a timeline for it to work. And if you are a timeline person, I really want to know like how that works for you. Like, do you feel like it has gotten you where you want to get to? And I actually mean that in like a very serious question, like that you are happy with having that timeline and everything that, you know, comes with it? Or are you the complete opposite and you're just kind of like me, that you're like, I am living life? Because I'm not gonna also lie to you guys, I sometimes think about it, like I have 2 dogs, right? And like I mentioned, both of them are very clingy. I am not saying that by any means dogs are like children, but if you ever have quote unquote baby fever, get yourself a dog. Because I truly feel like, obviously, you know, sometimes, I think I said this to like, I've said this to many people. I don't even know how many people at this point, but I feel like even at some point where I'm like, I even question if I want to have kids by 28, because sometimes when I'm sick and I come home from work and I'm literally feeling like dying, I see my dogs, and again, how I mentioned, they're super clingy. I know I have to feed them. I know I have to take them out, but I also know that I can kind of wait a few minutes. A kid, I know I can't just do that. I can't just leave them in the crate. I can't just leave them roaming around the house. I have to attend to them. So it kind of snaps me back into reality of like, oh, I want to be ready, and I know you're never truly prepared, obviously, but I want to have more of that mentality of like, oh, okay, I'm okay having kids now, because I know that some of the things that it comes with, you know, rather than just, oh, I don't know what to expect, but I just know I need to have kids by 25, you know? It's not me, but it could be some of you guys. So I do want to, you know, open the floor for you to kind of share those. Is it like something that you do, or is it something that, you know, this is the first time you're hearing about people having timelines or not? To kind of just close out the episode, I do want to briefly say that if you are a person that has a timeline with everything and you are currently going through a time of your life where you're feeling stressed, or kind of like depressed, I do want to encourage you to kind of let go of that timeline just for a little bit. I know for me, like I said, I am an agenda person, not for life, but more so for like my daily routines. And sometimes if if I don't do that at a specific time, I do get like a little annoyed. So that might be you with like your everyday life, but I've also learned that not everything will go as planned that day, even if you want to, but sometimes it could be even better, you know? And so when things like that do happen, it kind of makes me realize like, it's okay. Maybe something could have happened on your way to that like workout class or something, and it didn't because something else happened and you're here now, you know? And I think of scenarios like that and it really gets me through the day. So I want to encourage you to kind of let go of that timeline and just take a step back and breathe. You are doing okay. And even though life is hard, and even though, especially like I mentioned for women, the world is not always on our side, that's why we kind of have each other to kind of uplift each other and tell one another, hey, it's okay. We're not in competition with ourselves or with each other. well, no, we are sometimes, it's okay to be in competition with yourself, but we're not in competition with each other. You shouldn't be competing with, oh, who's gonna get married first, who's gonna have a baby first, who's gonna reach this first, because we don't share the same goals and aspirations. This is your life, this is their life, and it's not, if that is your friend, let go of that friendship as well, because that is not a healthy friendship. I don't care what anybody says, I stand strong on that opinion. Even with just like associations, that is not good. You should never be in competition of who's going to do what first when it comes to like life, because again, we all have our individual lives. And just because maybe they are younger than you and it appears that they're quote unquote a little more successful than you, use it as motivation, but don't use it as a way to bring yourself down and hide in a shell like, oh, I'm not where they are and they're younger than me. No, it's I am where I am because this is where I'm supposed to be, but I am not complacent being here. So I'm going to strive to be better, but for me. It's not I'm going to strive to be better than that person. That's not the goal. The goal is to be better for you. So once again, I just kind of want to close it off by letting you guys know that you are doing an amazing job. And I truly, 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 truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I know I don't know every single one of you guys, and I know every single one of you guys don't know me, but this is just a safe space to kind of open up and let go of things that you might be thinking about. You might be thinking that you're not good enough, you're not where you're wanting to be, but it is okay. And I want you to know that you are doing an amazing job. You are great. And those floating thoughts that are in your mind that sometimes feel like nobody is listening, I am. And you can always drop them down below and we can talk about them. We can talk about them in the next podcast. We can talk about them through our DMs. I am here to support you guys because I know that you guys are here to also support me. And yeah, with that being said, breathe. And yeah, see you guys on the next episode. Bye.